We have been hearing for years how in the future we're going to live in a cashless society, right? Well, tonight we ask, when is it really coming? And what's it going to mean? How's it going to affect my life, your life? Good, bad, indifferent? NRS correspondent Michele Greenstein joins us now to answer these questions. Michele, you've been working on this for 48 hours now, or something like that.
Sure.
What have you found out?
Well, to answer your first question of is it coming, the short answer is yes. We see the latest example today in Greece. Greeks now must spend at least 30% of their income electronically. And if they don't, then they will face a 22% fine on the shortfall. So let's say you only spend 15%
right.
And not 30, then that remaining 15% will be fined 22%. Now, let's remember that already in Greece, we have any bill under 70 euros must be paid either electronically by a check or by a credit card. So in this instance, using cash is not just taboo and not just financially de-incentivized, but actually illegal. But the truth is, Rick, this is symptomatic of a global trend. We had in India in 2016, the government declaring without warning that the two largest denomination bills would actually become invalid. What we're looking at now is some protests that were against this policy, which did, by the way, abolish over 80% of the circulating cash by value. So the owners of this cash could recoup their value by putting them into a bank account after a very short grace period. But the problem, of course, is that half of Indians do not have a bank account. It's a very largely cash-based society. So we had a lot of backlash in India after that was introduced in 2016. But what few know, Rick, is that this policy that was imposed on India actually has its roots in Washington. USAID had negotiated a series of agreements with the Indian Ministry of Finance, and one of these was actually with the goal of phasing out cash. So less than 1 month before Prime Minister Modi announced this policy, USAID actually established a cashless payment partnership with the Indian Ministry of Finance called Catalyst.
Help me understand this from a total rudimentary perspective, because there's a lot of people out here who are watching this right now who are thinking, you know what? I'm okay with not having to use cash. I'm more apt to get robbed. It's so easy to lose it. You know, I like using a credit card everywhere I go. I like this cashless system. Help them understand why they should hold on to the cash system.
Well, let's ask ourselves who benefits from a cashless system. The most obvious instance, you know, is banks, of course, right? Going cashless prevents a banking crisis because traditionally, when negative interest rates become too great, people will withdraw their funds, right, and hold cash. But paper currency is what allows for these bank runs, so that's impossible without cash. So that's the most obvious example, which is why it's significant that the largest U.S. bank, JP Chase, actually has a policy to restrict cash in certain markets, like credit cards, mortgages, homes, these big purchases, right, that it'd be great to have data on. But it also doesn't even allow people to store cash in its safety deposit box. But it's also significant that this idea of a cashless society actually has its origins with the banks themselves. It's significant that Willem Buiter, who was the chief economist at Citigroup at the time, actually was the first to present this idea of a cashless society.
So I'm just thinking to myself, there's also a move on like cryptocurrency and other types of cash that are less apt for the government to put their hands into. That's supposed to be the beauty of cryptocurrency. Apparently it's a big deal in India right now. Is that a part of something that would be less apt to make people vulnerable, for example?
Well, any sort of digital currency is more susceptible to being tracked, databased, and monitored, right? So you could say, hey, this doesn't affect me. Why should I have a problem with going cashless? That's only not going to be a problem for you if you're not going to do anything that a government might see as a threat. So we know from multiple NSA whistleblowers, right, that you know, NSA surveillance, all of this spying that the state does is less about terrorism and more about suppressing dissent. This is, you know, something we've covered multiple times in the past. So in a way, having everything more digitized and more, you know, tracked and surveilled allows for increased control. So a lot of people are saying that this momentum towards a cashless society not only benefits the central banks, but it also benefits these government actors who, of course, would love to have, you know, as much data on our lives as possible.
I get it. Yeah, it takes the control away from the individual and it gives it right there squarely on the shoulders of a government.
Right, simple surveillance enhancer.
Which is important. Good stuff. Thanks for that report.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing us up to date on something that a lot of us often think about. Michele. So you haven't heard that we're the ones covering the stories that you won't see covered anywhere else? In Venezuela, Kazakhstan. Let's go to Hong Kong. And the media reaction to that has been crickets. How about the way we cover those stories? What the hell does that mean? Huawei. That's the key word in this case, uprising. Keep? Can you believe that? Watching. This is the right thing for members of the media to do, to actually pick sides. Look, if you like what you see, subscribe.